Oh my god, this episode! Don't you just love when every single week, every single episode, you can just keep saying this is the best episode of the series thus far? I know I do, because it's just a testament to a great series when they keep one-upping the past episode due to the foundations that they set and just keep building on them. And I think the most common thing that you'll hear about this episode is that it feels like a mid-season finale, and we're only on episode 6. What is going on, dude? I immediately knew shit was real when they skipped both the opening and the ending, just because they had too much content to put into this episode. And of course, the highlight in this episode was the intense amount of spectacle that we got throughout the battle with the Klaxosaurs. I was unsure if we were gonna get right into the battle, or if we were gonna have some downtime in between, but no, we just get straight into the battle, and it was glorious. Seriously, Mishigori, using wings as your pre-explosion trigger flashes to tie into the theme of the episode and the series as a whole? You god! But more so than the action, what I was really impressed with was how the episode interweaved a surprising amount of character focus, development, world building, and even a little bit of theory confirmation in there throughout this entire fight without feeling jarring or uninteresting, where you're just like, go back to the battle already, I don't want to see this. And those are the qualities of a great director who can combine all of those elements seamlessly, make it coherent and engaging for the audience throughout the entire episode. So yeah, we have a lot to talk about in this, so let's just jump right in. I'm going to start immediately in the fight, and it's during this encounter where we see a big difference in skill between Squad 26 and our own. And of course, this isn't much of an observation. It's obvious why they're better. They have better teamwork and more experience on the field than we do. We've only been on a mission twice at this point. But what's more interesting about this is that it ties back into what the captain was saying last episode about how their squad and most squads in the Franxx programs are trained to work as a team. They're trained to work in sync, and that is why all of their Franxx have similar looking designs, and they're a lot more reclusive in their personalities than what we have in ours. Whereas it feels like our makeshift team was created and designed to be the exact opposite, encouraging individuality, which in the end leads to a lot of hectic, uncoordinated battle strategies. And we still don't know the purpose of our makeshift team and why they would do this in the first place, but there's clearly something more going on for why Dr. Franxx is testing our team and trying to make them the opposite of the other squads who are trained to function as a team. And I also like how this is basically a cheeky way of explaining why all of the grunts and other squad Franxx designs look the same. And on top of that, why their personalities aren't as outgoing. Normally this would just be an anime thing of, oh, they're not the main characters, so we don't need to put effort into them. But here, there's actually a reason why they're not putting effort into them. But no, on a purely technical level, this fight, this entire battle sequence is insane. It is ridiculous and lasts the large majority of the episode. And it's incredible because I was praising episode 4's animation and technical qualities, and this episode surpasses that episode and lasts longer. Just the incredible use of animation, and yes, I would include the CG animation in that praise as well. It looks quite good, and the way that they shaded it makes it stand out less compared to the traditional 2D animation. And of course, we have to talk about the glorious soundtrack. I haven't really talked about the soundtrack much in this series. I have enjoyed it quite a bit. I just haven't really had a need to discuss it, but no, I need to discuss it in this episode because it elevated so many scenes in this fight. The prime example for me is when the Gutenberg class Klaxosaur actually reveals itself. You just have this haunting orchestra in the background and it sounds incredible. It made what would have been a pretty typical situation of, oh, the bad guy is transforming, big deal, into a legitimately grand and scary situation. Apparently the soundtrack comes out on March 8th and I could not be more excited. I am so pumped to listen to these tracks in full. What's really nice about this battle though is that we finally see everyone in our group working together as a team. We did get that to an extent with the worm Klaxosaur back in episode 4, but it feels like in this fight, especially towards the end, there is just a lot more camaraderie going on between our team members, which is really refreshing considering a lot of our interactions between the group have been mostly just conflict. And that extends out to the other squad as well. For example, when we see Zerome save the captain of Squad 26, that was just so satisfying, seeing that mutual respect that they have for each other. Speaking of the captain, during this fight, we actually get confirmation on a theory that I've had for multiple weeks at this point, and that is the nature of the code numbers and what they mean. The leader of Squad 26 questions why 2 skilled teen code members were put into a makeshift test team. And it's this line that basically confirms that the lower your code number is, in one way or another, you're more adept than an average pilot. We still don't know what this means in terms of skill. Is it your inherent skill? Is it your sync results? Do you take some kind of test that places you in a code number? I feel like this will be explained as we get more into the 9s, the single digit numbers, but I'm just happy that we finally have confirmation that indeed, the lower your code number is, the more valuable you are as a pilot. On the topic of theories, I want to get into something that's been brought up for multiple weeks at this point, and that is the Klaxosaur classifications. Ever since we heard about the Conrad classified Klaxosaur, try saying that 3 times fast, in the first episode, there has been speculation tossed around about the way that they're classified and hinting at their origins and why they're here in the first place, and this speculation only gained more ground over the course of the series when we encountered a Moho class Klaxosaur in episode 4, and even more so now with the Gutenberg class that we are fighting now. The theory holds a lot of ground, especially when you take into consideration a manga blurb that I wasn't originally aware of. I'm putting the picture up on screen, but it says that through the use of ultra deep excavation, humanity succeeded in obtaining magmatic fuel that possessed extraordinary energy efficiency, which after mining it for so long, laid waste to the Earth's surface through environmental destruction and the deformation of the Earth's crust. Now, I wish I had known about this manga blurb a few episodes back, because this answers a lot of the questions that I've been having about the world as a whole and the purpose of our society. For one, this explains why the Earth looks so desolate in the first place, and 2, it explains why we are using magma despite the risk being so high, because this is just such a valuable resource that we cannot let go of it, even with these giant Dinobots attacking us. But the theory goes that because of the way that these Klaxosaurs are referred to as different layers in the Earth's crust, it's pretty natural to assume that because humans were mining and excavating this magma, the Klaxosaurs appeared because it was enraging them. Whether it's because they were in the ground and it was disturbing them, or it's because we were stealing their magma, I don't know, but this theory just holds a lot of weight at this point. This is practically canon. Now, let's focus on the scene right after Hiro believes that he has defeated the Klaxosaur and collapses, because the anime tosses a lot to dissect in just a few seconds of actual footage. For one, and let's just get the most simple observation out of the way first, the rocket-powered hammer that the Klaxosaur uses is amazing, and I hope that we see crazy weapons like this in the future from future Klaxosaurs. I just love that despite them being these primitive Dinobots, that we can still find an excuse to have these really high-tech, awesome weapons. After the link between Hiro and 02 has been broken, the Strelitzia reverts to its animal form that we saw in the first episode, and this confirms a lot of thoughts that people had in my comments about Strelitzia going animal form when it's 02 piloting alone. And of course we'll talk about this more in depth later when I start talking about 02's characterization, but it's not exactly a pretty sight. As Nana and Hachi are overseeing the fight, they are obviously upset that their last hope was seemingly defeated, but what's interesting is Hachi says we had to run out of time now, as if they expected something like this to happen. Did they know that piloting with 02 would be too much for Hiro? And do they know that because this is exactly what happened with previous pilots? That line just stood out to me because it implies that Hachi expected something like this to happen, just not this soon. And if that's the case, maybe this blue disease is something that has affected other people in the past. Or maybe it's simply because Hiro was piloting for the 3rd time that Hachi just naturally expected things to go awry. And finally, in this scene, Hiro Hiro taking the brunt of the damage as they're being assaulted by this giant rocket hammer is the exact inverse to what we know about standard Franxx, where the female is the one who is damaged. We do see 02 injured later on, but it is curious that the disease is self-destructive because of Hiro piloting the Franxx, whereas normally the male is left unscathed. As Hiro drifts into unconsciousness, we get a quote-unquote death scene where Hiro is on the platform where we saw Naomi off in the first episode. And to match up with that, we see Naomi as a vision on this same platform. And a lot of people seem to think that this confirms the death of Naomi. I would wholeheartedly disagree. This is just a vision. This isn't like he went into the afterlife and saw someone who was actually dead. It was just a vision, which in the end helped him come to terms with what he really wants out of piloting a Franxx. Naomi is still alive, mark my words. But with Hiro realizing what he truly wants, let's just get into Hiro and 02's relationship and the vast amount of characterization that they received in this episode, which I feel like is the most we've ever gotten from the both of them in the entire series thus far. We hear that the reason 02 fights the Klaxosaurs and has fun killing them is because she's quote-unquote a monster, a self-described monster, and I have more to say about this, but it ties into some speculation that I'm about to get into, so I'll save it for a second. But I really love this scene before they jump into the battle, where we just see Hiro and 02 casually talking to each other in a more relaxed manner than we've seen in the series so far, just learning more about each other and becoming closer, which connects with the overall focus and ending of the episode, where we really see the two connect truly for the first time. And there's such a transformation and arc from the beginning of this episode to the end. For example, when Hiro's struggling to pilot, 02 does not console him or ask him, "Are you alright?" She asks, "Is that all you've got?" And that is because 02 has such a disregard for Hiro for the majority of this episode. And at first I wasn't sure if it's because she just believes in him, or if she just genuinely doesn't care about someone who doesn't have the strength to keep fighting. But it's only after finishing the episode where I realized that there is a clear difference in the relationship that they had before and after Hiro's vision. And it's in this vision where Hiro realizes that he cannot leave 02 alone. He was pursuing his own selfish desires for so long, but now realizes how vulnerable 02 is, and realizes that he needs to stay with her to become her wings. It's really sweet, and I think it shows how far he's progressed from someone who only wanted to pilot in a Franxx no matter the cost, to now somebody who will stay by her side no matter what. And I would feel the same way after seeing what 02 becomes when she's alone. It's really sad to watch, and this leads me into my question and speculation that I mentioned before. What drives 02's hatred of the Klaxosaurs? It's only when you think about it that you realize that we really don't know much of anything about 02. We don't know her origins, we don't know why she has Klaxosaur blood inside of her, and we don't know why she is so important to the Franxx program, other than she's just really strong. During her berserk state, we see her reverting to her original Klaxosaur self. We see pointed teeth, red eyes, writhing in pain, and during that scene we see her screaming at the Klaxosaur and calling it just a monster, which, as you remember, she just referred to herself that a bit ago. But what is in her past that makes her feel this undying rage for them, where at the end of the episode she just has to keep saying, "I need to kill more and more Klaxosaurs," which I will say, kind of a lame line to end the episode on. I would have just preferred Hiro's narration, but that's okay, that's okay. But of course, in the climax of this episode, probably the biggest question of all, why did Hiro's disease go away? And my theory for that is pretty simple, actually. I think that the disease was a product of Hiro and 02's sync. And of course, this is obvious. Their sync is what is causing these yellow blood cells to produce rapidly inside Hiro's body, which was likely the cause of this blue disease. But I think the reason that this sprouted was because of Hiro's misguided reasons for wanting to pilot with 02. It's only after Hiro had his vision where his goals became pure. All he wants to do at this point is stay by 02's side so she's never alone again. And it's because by the end of the episode 02 realizes that Hiro's there with her, no matter what, that she is just no longer alone, that their sync is a lot healthier and no longer affects Hiro in a negative way. And I think that the change in attitude with 02 is very prominently shown over the course of this episode. When Hiro was initially in pain while piloting with her, 02 had to ask, "Can you continue?" Whereas at the end, when Hiro straight up tells her, I don't know what's going to happen the next time we pilot, I just know that I want to pilot and stay with you, 02 shows complete confidence and says that he will be able to pilot with her many more times to come. It's beautiful. I love the way that they progressed that relationship, and of course the cherry on top is how Nishigori uses Hiro's narration at the end about the Gion bird to tie directly into the beginning narration of the first episode and how far we've come. It feels so purposeful because in the first episode, through Hiro's narration, he considers the Gion as a pitiful creature because he likened himself to them and how he felt like he was missing a wing and couldn't do anything with his life because of that. But now at the end of this episode, he realizes that missing his wing was his purpose in life, so that he could be there to support 02. Oh my god, Nishigori, I love you! While we're on the topic of characterization, I want to talk about Ichigo in this episode, and the change in her behavior after her confrontation with 02 and breaking down crying next to Goro. We see at the beginning that she's become a lot more bashful when approaching Hiro now, and the most ouch scene of the entire episode is when she's jealous of Hiro's attention towards 02, so she tries to return the favor by saying that she always considered Hiro a brother, but it ends up backfiring and doesn't even faze Hiro. He's like, yeah, same, I always thought of you as a sister. What's worse though is the way that Hiro keeps talking about Goro and saying that she belongs with Goro, really hitting home that she is not happy with where she's at right now, which I don't know how you would not be happy with Goro. That man is everything you could ask for. I'm just wondering where you take this conflict at this point, because by the end you at least have Ichigo confronting her feelings and embracing Hiro after seeing he's alive, but you know we're going to get some kind of encounter where Ichigo truly confesses her feelings. I just wonder what will come of that, because at this point I seriously doubt anything will ever become of the Hiro Ichigo ship, and I really hope that she doesn't end up using Goro as some kind of fallback where she gets with him to try to make Hiro jealous or something. I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen, because during the fight he did his best to comfort her when he knew their lives were at stake and she was breaking down again. Goro is a good dude and he does not deserve that, but I feel like it's not all bad, because at the very end of the episode, as Strelitzia is going in for the final blow, Ichigo yells out Hiro's name in encouragement for them to get the job done. But in this case, it's not just Hiro, she also yells 02's name, which I believe is the very first time that we've heard Ichigo speak her name. Now this could just be an in the moment kind of situation where Ichigo feels the need to encourage both of them, but I feel like it might also symbolize some sort of acceptance that Hiro and 02 belong together as pilots. Maybe not full acceptance, but semi-acceptance. But before the episode concludes, we get one little tease at the end where we see the nines appear, baby. Let's go! I know we still don't really know if they are the nines, but come on, they're the nines. There's no way they're not. We see three of them watching as our group celebrates a job well done, and from a distance, I think it is three of the males that we saw, with of course the blonde dude probably being the leader. Could this be the coveted 01? And in this concluding scene, we see the leader, the blonde dude, refer to 02, assumedly, he might be referring to Hiro, but I'm almost positive he's referring to 02 as 9 Iota. And this is a weird name because Iota itself means 9, as it's the 9th letter of the Greek alphabet and the 9th star in a constellation. So it's kind of redundant to say 9, but I wonder what this means, if it's a title specifically for 02, or if it's what they refer to all of their partners as in the single digits. Iota also means a very small amount, which could refer to the fact that she and the rest of the group in the single digits are the smallest numbers. I really don't know. I don't know what it could be referring to. Those are my thoughts on that, but of course we'll be getting more information likely next episode where we see these people in action. Well, maybe not in action, maybe just talking to them, but still, they're showing up next episode. And before we close off this review, I just want to talk about a few things that were pointed out to me from the last episode that I didn't pick up on, so thank you guys so much for telling me about this. Just small details, but details that are interesting to note nonetheless. For one, we see that the male and female uniforms that they wear actually have different red symbols on them depending on if you're a male or a female. Males with an upside down Y on them, and females with an X. And this is of course to represent chromosomes. Males have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome, and females have 2 X chromosomes. So yeah, that's an interesting note, and thank you guys for telling me about that. And the second note that was brought up to me is, in the main key art for the series, we see our entire group standing, looking heroic. We have 02 in the background overlooking everybody. Pretty standard key art. But what's cool is where Hero is placing his fist on his chest is the exact spot where the cancer sprouted. It's a really nice detail and nice foreshadowing for things that we had no idea about when we first saw this key art, so I figured I would mention it here. But that's been all from me for this Darling in the Franxx episode review. Thank you all so much for watching this series with me, discussing the likes, the support in general. I love you guys, and this has easily been the most fun series to cover on my channel so far in terms of interacting with you guys, just because it's an original. There's so much discussion, so much speculation and theory crafting going on in our community. It's just been such a blast to participate with you guys. So again, I'd love to hear all of your guys' thoughts on the episode, your theories, your discussion. It's the best, and of course, as usual, have a great day.